I think TV3 has done a fantastic job in exposing this, and I am hoping that our ministry for Women and Children's Affairs and Social Protection will take this up in a very serious way, because we cannot leave things as they stand. We just can't. I mean, young girls. Young girls.
We're told yesterday when I spoke with Zubeida Ismaila, regional correspondent up there in Yendi, she tells us that the elders of that community have actually put together a bylaw to fine any parent who does that. And guess what? The fine is 250 Ghana cedis. Is it deterrent enough? That's the question I've been asking, really.
Sure.
If you're betrothing and 250 cedis, the suitor may as well provide the money and still get the lady.
Exactly. Well, it shows you the value that we place on our girl children in this society. I mean, it is the idea of coming together to do something is obviously a good one, but unfortunately, the remedy or the method they are using is not a deterrent.
But you're a lawyer. If we have a bylaw to say we're finding people for 250 Ghana cedis, and yet the original practice of betrothing people, young girls, to suitors that they may not necessarily like or be in love with, or how do we juxtapose the two? There's a fine, and yet the original cause is still very much
right. So the fine is treating the symptom rather than the underlying problem, and that's why I said that I think this has to be taken up at the very highest level. The ministry has to focus on that, because this is actually both a children, a gender issue, and a social protection issue. Right. It straddles all three aspects of that particular ministry.
Right.
And I mean, these are not even young girls; these are children.
Yes.
I mean, a 12-year-old child.
It's a child.
It's a child. I mean, they don't know anything about life and sex and relationships, and why should they be introduced to these things at such an early age when they are least prepared for it? I mean, your body, biologically, your body has not even matured to carry a child.
Right.
So right there, and the trauma, the mental distress and impact it has on the child, it can follow the child for life.
Yes.
These are the kind of things that later on in life can lead to deep clinical depression and suicides and all sorts of other ailments in our society. So it actually affects society, the very fabric of society as a whole.
Right. We've been joined by the CPP's Mrs. Rose Austin Tenadu. She's a member of the communications team. Welcome, Rose. How are you doing? I like your dress. It's lovely. Man.
Thank you.
The women are shuddering.
They always do.
Yes, of course. The women have class and color.
But you've also shuddered.
Well, I'm trying. These are borrowed clothes. So. Well, welcome. Let me pick your quick thoughts about the nanny issue in Yendi. For you, as a woman, as a member of the communications team of the CPP, and I know that in the 2016 election you had some policies about these things. Yeah. Tell us what you think should be done about this.
Well, first of all, I'll say good morning to our cherished viewers. I really condemn this issue of young girls being given into marriage. God has in his own wisdom, created a woman in a special way. We need to be careful. I'm even so much worried about the contraceptives that they've started using, that they've resorted to. Why are they doing that? Because they are afraid to get pregnant. If you are married, then legitimately your husband has the right to impregnate you. But they are being smart, and I put smart in quote, that yes, I know I'm not supposed to be married at that time anyway. I should be in school. But if I'm forced to go into marriage, then I'm not ready to have a child. I'm not ready to be a mother. And so let me resort to contraceptive. But let's remember that these contraceptives may even have their implications.
They do. In fact, the midwives say they tell the children about the effects of the contraceptives, because all the methods have their own side effects.
Sure.
But then they have no choice. They insist that they want it. And they even claim that some mothers bring their daughters to assess the
Honestly, I
contraceptives?
feel that as a nation, we are not doing much for our young girls out there. We are talking too much, but we are not working. We just say, well, get the girl child to school, get the girl child in school. I remember as long back as over 20 years ago, before I became a teacher, there was this song about send your girl child to school.
Yes.
So this promotion of the girl child education and all that. But I always say that for me, there is something wrong with it. Something fundamentally wrong. You educate the girl, you send the girl child to school and leave the boy child. If the boy child feel cheated, what happens? Okay, you've sent her to school, I will stop her.
Okay.
If the man feels intimidated, and a lot of the times when these young ladies are expressing themselves, most men, and I remember last week saying elsewhere that the cowards feel intimidated, and therefore, okay, you want to go to school, well, eventually you will end up being a mother. Let's catch them young. And it's rather destroying our young girls. I believe that if we say that we are sending the girls to school, when the girl gets to school, is she comfortable enough to want to stay in school? Is the mother who is taking care of that child comfortable enough to fend for the child to stay in school? Is the father comfortable enough to fend? For example, there are schools, my constituency, where I stood for parliamentary elections, just the past elections, KE. You go to so many schools and there are no toilet facilities for the young girl to go and change at that time of the month. And so you ask some girls, why did you stop schooling? You speak good English, you speak very good Fanti, you express yourself well, but you are not in school. So at the end of the month, the boys laugh at me when I saw myself. Sometimes I go to school and I'm not comfortable, and someone might think they are, you know, trivial issues, but they are very serious issues, among other things that as a nation, as a state, we need to consider. The recent budget that was read, what I heard in it that probably was for the girl or was geared towards the girl is the issue of Kayayo to free Kayayo.
But there's a whole ministry dedicated to it, gender, women and social protection. So that's a giant leap in the right direction. My concern really with what you've raised so far is about the fact that we've had a precedence where some students are sent out of school by school authorities because they got pregnant. And, you know, we'll get a legal perspective about it because, you know, it tramples on their fundamental human rights to access education. But that's the reality we have. Here we have, yet they have not been driven out of school, but they, out of their own volition, perhaps because they feel embarrassed about their situation, they're trying to find solution. What is it that we need to do in terms of policy direction so that we can arrest this problem right from the start? What do we need to do?
Well, the issue of they, you know, wanting to stay in school is very important. Otherwise, why would they even resort to contraceptives? So we need to enforce our laws. We say before age 18, these young girls are children. That's our constitution. They are minors. They cannot vote. They are not adults. They can't take decision on their own. So, as a nation, I believe that the policies are there, the documented issues are there. However, are we implementing them? I remember between 97 and 98, I was in training college. And my mates who are watching me know the training college I'm talking about. There were ladies there who were married, living with their husbands, but they were not supposed to get pregnant. And these were even adults.
They were in school?
In training college.
Which training college?
Post-secondary.
Which training college?
No, all training colleges in Ghana. You can't get pregnant. You have to complete school.
You are forbidden to get
Yes, you can't, even if you are married. I don't know if that has changed now. One of my mates got pregnant and we had to cover up.
What would have happened? She would have been expelled?
Yes. She would have had to go home. So we had to protect her, cover up. And just about a month ago, I'm saying this because just about a month ago, on our WhatsApp platform, we were talking about some of the secrets in school, and she brought it up. And I was like, wow. So we need to, once we have a legal practitioner here, the laws must be applied. That child is already suffering for getting pregnant at a young age. Then you deny the child access to education. What happens to that young man or that old man who got her pregnant?
In fact, Auntie Ajua, a veteran teacher who calls a program on 3FM from Pokwasi, said that she's taught in that part of town before. And what happens is that the young girls go to sell, and the old men actually sometimes push them and rape them. And it happens. She says it's a regular thing around that place, but she doesn't know what the situation. But counsel, let's look at the policy standpoint that will arrest the situation once and for all.
Well, I think, as Rose said, the legislation is there. It's the question of enforcement. It is a child's fundamental human right, whether a boy child or a girl child. In this particular case, we are focusing on the girl children because the male children are protected. Right. They are okay. It's a girl child's fundamental human right to attend school. I mean, that is a basic human right. It is also a girl child's fundamental human right not to have their body abused by somebody else, not to be defiled by an old person, not to be raped, not to be forced into a marriage that they don't even understand. I mean, these are fundamental human rights, and they are very basic. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's a two-pronged approach. It's a question of enforcement of the legislation that we have for our girl children to feel valued by society. Because at the moment, if you are a child, you are raped by someone or forced into an arranged marriage of some sort, you get pregnant, you are then thrown out of school. I mean, where is your life? I mean, where is it leading? And I was talking earlier about the psychological impact of children. So I think the law has to work.
But now you're in government.
Education is the other thing.
You're close by to the Minister for Gender, Social. And I'm very impressed about the way she's fighting this whole Mawako incident and making sure that we get some justice for the victim. Can we take some assurance from you that you will speak to Honorable Otiko Jaba so we can get justice for these young girls in Nani?
I will speak to her. I will speak to Honorable Otiko because I know she's passionate about these things, and it is her responsibility to protect the vulnerable in our society. And I'm sure she will do that because it's something that she takes seriously, and it's something that our president takes seriously.
Right. Thank you very much.
Our president, incidentally, only has girl children.
Of course.
So he's very passionate about, anything to do with women in particular.
Right.
So I'm sure that this is something that will be taken seriously at the very highest level.
Join us on WhatsApp, 050-823-5228. That's 050-823-5228. We're also on Twitter at News on TV3, and your thoughts and comments are very much welcome. But thank you, Zubeida Ismail, for unveiling this, our North Regional correspondent. Let's get on to other issues. And the president has been responding to critics, says the numbers needed to promote his bold agenda is 110 ministers. And it's not stopped people from talking. Mustafa Hamid is Minister for Information. He also says that the government did not promise a lean government. But on the back of the fact that the president says we have a frail economy, our economy is in dire straits, protect the public purse, and we know how much these ministers will earn, how much they will spend eventually, and all of that. Let me come to you, Rose, start with you. 110, is it justified?
It may be justified, it may not be.
What does the CPP say?
The CPP says, depending on what the president's intentions are. I mean, you see, there are times when we talk, and we talk, and we talk. Unfortunately, whatever you do, people would have things to say about it. Trust me, if this government had been, say, 20, 25 ministers, definitely Ghanaians would have found something to say about it. The question is there anything unconstitutional about that decision? No. What is the president's plan? He said he has big plans for the nation. The economy is not so stable. They are going to revive the economy. There is so much that has to be done. He has sat down. Trust me, I don't think the president decided within these few months to select the kind of people he selected. I wouldn't be surprised these people have been selected and prepared for years, you know. So once he's come out with it, yes, it may be the largest so far, but to what end? I feel we should keep our fingers crossed. If this will result in efficiency, why not? If I have
efficiency at what cost?
As in, if at what cost? If you have 10 people, and so we are not paying so much, as some of the arguments are that we don't have money and we are going to pay ministers 14,000 plus and all that. So these are the things we are calculating. But there have been governments that had less than 110. But you know the waste that was caused in the nation, the waste that went on. So that if we are seeing the ministers as being many, but at the end of the day, the president achieves his aim. Ghana is beautiful. Everyone is comfortable. Our girls are in school, they are comfortable. The project for toilets for schools is executed, and mothers are comfortable, daddies are happy, children go to school, they have libraries to read storybooks from, they have laboratories.
It's all a matter
of
money. We need money to do this.
How much money are we as a nation going to use to pay these ministers? Let's compare it to the waste, the SADA issue. The national service scheme scandals, the national youth employment issues. There have been so much waste. So if the president feels, if I am doing something and I know someone is watching my back, I may be, cautious. But if I don't know one is watching my back, it may be a lean ministry or a lean government. But at the end of the day, the wastefulness will be far worse than a fat government.
Council, Imani Ghana says putting 110 people together to dig a dam with teaspoons, when in fact you could have gotten one big tractor to do the job in 1 hour. And some say that 110 is like calling too many people to do very little. Do you share that sentiment as well?
I don't share that sentiment at all. Obviously, Imani Ghana is entitled to their opinion, but I think, with the greatest respect to them, that's a very simplistic look of the situation.
Okay.
First of all, the president is within his constitutional right to appoint as many ministers as he feels he needs to prosecute his agenda.
Right.
I mean, we have all been witnesses, some of us have participated in the elections, and we've seen the kind of promises, the kind of future that President Akufo-Addo has for Ghana.
Nkrumah had 41 ministers. Fast forward to 2017, we have 110. What Nkrumah achieved, and many still tout that what President Nkrumah did, no president after him has been able to achieve even a quarter.
Nkrumah, I mean, that was a different era. That was straight after independence.
That was
straight after independence. There was a lot of money there. We still had the governance structures that the colonialists had left behind. I mean, that's complete. That's like comparing apples with pears.
Right.
This is 2017. This is 2017, and it's a 2017 where President Akufo-Addo has inherited a lot of rot. I mean, let's be very clear about that. The country is in dire straits, and that is why Ghanaians overwhelmingly elected him by a margin, an unprecedented margin of over 1 million votes. And when you have been put in that kind of situation, you have to deliver. And President Akufo-Addo is acutely aware of what he has to do to move this country from where we are to where we could be, to our promised land. And this is how he's intending to do it.
The wage bill for footing the ministerial appointments, a deputy minister may get 14,000, 13,000, a substantive minister may get 15,000. So if you run the math, you know how much we're getting. But here's a team that at the transition table rejected even lunch and snacks, saying that they don't want to be part of any eating. Now, so far, it's only Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta who's come out to say he will not take a salary and even his official vehicle. Are we to expect that any of the 110 ministers will also make that declaration that, well, I give my salary to the state, I'm working for free?
Well, everybody's circumstances do. When I worked for the state, for the first couple of years, I worked for the state for free. Everybody's circumstance is different, and I think it's unfair to expect people to not to expect to be paid. I mean, you work, you get paid. So for me, it's a fantastic gesture on the part of Ken, the Honorable Minister. I myself did the same when I was in a position to do so, and I think really, I mean, how much money are we going to save by that? A lot of the people we have are actually in Parliament. So we are talking about the margins, you know. And also, let's look at the United Kingdom, for example. When you look at some of the current government, Theresa May's government, there are 7 ministers in the Department of Education, 6 ministers for the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, 6 at the Works and Pensions Ministry, etc., etc.
They don't go to borrow from anybody or accept grants to support their budget. We do, and so we cannot compare ourselves.
And why? Well, I'm saying this to illustrate a point. And the point is that even in sophisticated societies, where we might think that they don't have the kind of problems we have, and where the various sectors are developed to a point where they can afford to withdraw rather than increase, they are actually, they've got a number of, they've broken the departments down into, there's a minister in charge of apprenticeships in the education ministry. So if we keep going the way we've been going, then we are never ever going to get up
so
to
it's
where
not
we
a
need
numbers
to get.
game, but I'm raising the argument, counter argument, that indeed the UK doesn't go to borrow from anybody. They foot their own bill. We go to borrow. And are we to do the same thing?
Every country every country borrows. Have you seen the size of America's borrowing?
They do, but perhaps we do not want to compare ourselves to those countries.
Well, they don't. Well, in this particular case, I think the comparison is apt. And it is apt because here we are looking at a prosperous nation with developed structures and structures that work and structures that work well. Even they are breaking their ministries down into bite sizes to give each part of it the focus it deserves. That is what makes them great. We cannot have these big sweeping ministries with people sitting there, 1 or 2, to say we have lean government. I mean, look at the level of corruption that we all experienced as Ghanaians under the previous administration. So it is not about numbers, it is about performance, it is about output, it is about the vision of the president, and it is about he wanting to get this nation from A to B. We cannot, I mean, what did Einstein define madness as? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. The kind of Ghana that President Akufo-Addo wants to create, where he wants to lead us to, the kind of promised land he's promising us. He needs soldiers to get us there. And he needs a clear roadmap to get us there. And that is what he's trying to do. So I would plead with Ghanaians. I understand the concerns. The president understands the concerns. But please, he's acutely aware of the resources we have in this nation. And his agenda is to maximize those resources for our benefit as a nation, all of us to benefit as a nation. So please, just bear with the president and just let us all, just the goodwill that Ghanaians have overwhelmingly shown him, please continue with that goodwill, bear with the president, and he will take us where we need to be taken seriously as a nation once again. again.
Okay, so mixed reactions greet ministerial appointments in Accra. It's there in Sunyani as well, Kumasi, Tamale, Bolgatanga, all over. I mean, the general reaction is that the numbers are plenty. Now, there's one proposal that's come up that if we're saying, for example, that we're going to have a minister for procurement and we have a procurement agency or authority, at what point are we going to have a procurement minister for 4 years, or at a certain point we're going to knock off some of them, say business development, when we feel that we are okay? You know, are we going to have a knockdown of some of the positions as we run along?
Well, as I said, I mean, every president does a reshuffle at some point. I cannot predict what President Akufo-Addo will do, or whether he will do a reshuffle or at what point.
There may be a plan.
Well, that is true. But what I'm saying is that at the moment, we know that one of the biggest problems we have in this country is procurement. We all know that because it has led to an unprecedented level of corruption. And so it is one of the tickets against which we were elected.
Right.
So it is an area that has to be given a focus of its own. And right now, it is an area that has to be given a focus of its own. If the time comes when one feels that maybe a different direction should be taken, I'm sure the president will take that direction. But for now, it is there. We've entered into 43 power purchase agreements and all sorts of. I mean, we cannot,
some of which you intend to review.
Yes, yes. Some of which are being reviewed. Yes, the review has started.
Right. 050-823-5228. That's our WhatsApp line. I trust you want to join the conversation at this point. 050-823-5228 is our WhatsApp line. We're also on Twitter at News on TV3 and on Facebook as well. I tweet at Hughes_3FM. Join the conversation. Let me read you. I'll read your thoughts, comments shortly on the touch screen there. But NDC officials refused to return 234 state vehicles. And Lawyer Ikwe says the vehicles are yet to be returned. But I thought that the headline would read, we have not found 283 vehicles, 34 vehicles, and we are going for them. That's what I thought the headlines would say, but this is what it says. It may be like they're throwing their hands out in despair. Rose?
I'm even surprised this headline is popping up again. I thought this whole issue of vehicles being taken away, we haven't taken vehicles away, and all these issues would have been resolved by now.
How would they have been resolved if nobody is willing to?
If you have state property in your care, just return it. I mean, this clamor of state property, I came into office, I'm leaving, I'm taking this away, I'm going away with this. Seriously, you see, we are talking about fat government.
Yeah.
And we forget that there are other things that we have. I had over 6,000 vehicles, official vehicles in Ghana, and I was like, wow. And there are some schools who do not have toilet facilities, libraries, ICT laboratories. There is a school at a place called Samana Butar Park.
You don't need to go to Samana Butar. You need to go to a school around Choko or a school around Bubuashi. Around Nubu School. They don't have toilet facilities. It's they use the public toilet.
It's appalling.
They cross the street to go and use themselves.
For the ICT facilities, like a computer and all that, they write the same BECE exams.
Okay.
And government buys vehicles, very expensive vehicles, saloon vehicles. This Toyota, I'm not very conversant with these brand names.
The V8.
Not the V8, but the saloon type.
Avalon.
They buy all these, and when you are going out of office, a vehicle that is, say, 2016 model, 2015 model, and you buy it at 20,000 Ghana cedis, that's 200 million. And you say, I've paid the clearance, what, so it becomes mine. Then, if I know I'm leaving, and I'll be leaving with such things, why don't I purchase a lot of them? Because I have there is something wrong with that aspect of our constitution.
I think that in 2014, in the State of the Nation address, President Mahama gave a directive, which Chief of Staff then at the time, Julius Deborah, wrote about it and says that the fact that you're able to purchase your official vehicle has been abolished, it's been cancelled. So it's
so
there.
then what is happening now?
I don't know, but Council.
But you know, it's not only, you see, a lot of the times when these arguments come up, we focus on political setups.
Right.
But go to our institutions, the public institutions, the leaders there, what happens to them? So it has trickled down from politics down to our public institutions. Head of department is leaving, he or she qualifies to go away with this. And sometimes people even purchase things, pack them, keep them, they don't use them. Vehicles, washing machines, televisions, you name them, they keep them because when they are leaving,
they can
will
acquire
leave with
them.
You know,
Council, should we be having this conversation when we know that we have an inventory list or a chronicler that says this vehicle was assigned to Mr. A at this time, it is in this shape, and the list was presented at the transition table. So if we can't find this pen, we know it is with Rose, and we can conveniently walk to Rose and pick it. Why are we having this conversation?
Well, I am not sure the level of detail that was provided on each of the vehicles. It may be that some of the vehicles were more comprehensively documented than others. Because I think if it was a situation where they could easily be linked to particular individuals, then, as you said, we would not be having
I know
this
that Johnny
conversation.
Osei-Kofi, former Deputy Chief of Staff, brought a list of 641 vehicles, comprehensive. It says this car was given to this man at this point, and it was very comprehensive.
Right.
So, and that was what was presented at the transition table. So there were two sides to the transition. Lawyer Ikotu led the charge for the minority side at the time. We shouldn't be having this conversation, I think.
But the list that was brought, I seem to recall that subsequently there were more vehicles actually out there than the list. So already you have a gap. So you're starting from a position of deficiency. And obviously there must have been other things wrong going down the line. We cannot keep having these problems. I mean, the Administrator General himself said it was difficult for him to actually pinpoint exactly what
the
we
Attorney
had.
General says
So
the lack of resources is not an excuse for him to be making those statements, that he didn't have the resources, the requisite resources to chase these assets, as it were.
Well, whatever information they could find is what they gave. Or at least on the Administrator General side. And as you said, the Deputy Chief of Staff also brought a list. We also got there and found that there was a deficit. And now, a couple of months into the administration, obviously more information has been unraveled. If 234 vehicles are missing, then those 244 vehicles must be found. They cannot just be left in the air. And if people are deliberately sitting on them, when they are found, whatever, they have to be dealt with in accordance with the full force of the law. You know, we have to start doing things properly.
What do you say to the argument that
as a nation,
that we are just raising these red flags so we're able to acquire new vehicles?
I mean, that sounds like a typical political sort of opposition political argument. I mean, it has to be a bit more deep and meaningful than that. I think that's all I'm going to say on that. I mean, it's just, with the greatest respect to the proponents of that theory, it's so ridiculous that I think I'm not really going to say much more on that.
Anyway, Rose, you want to have a bite?
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking, I guess, while we were discussing, you had to go back to our council. You know, as I earlier said, we have a fat government. I wouldn't say large. I would say fat because it's big. But I need something. His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo yesterday commented on these discussions and said whatever Mustafa Hamid, Honorable, has said about the decision to select 110 ministers is justified and all that, and he agrees because whatever Mustafa has said is true. But I need some form of an assurance, and I believe all Ghanaians need that assurance too. it didn't really come. I didn't really hear it from what the president said. So if we could get the MPP coming out telling us that yes, we have it. Don't worry. We are going to deliver. Give us some timelines, because these vague promises of we will deliver from government to government, from time to time we hear, oh, we will deliver, we are fresh, oh, it's 4 years, 4 years is not up yet. There should be some timelines. For example, we started talking about this free SHS thing.
Okay.
The financing issue still not resolved. It's hanging. Now the minister's issue has come up. It's hanging now. The cars have come up. Is there a cover-up to,
council is
attention? Deviate attention, not the one you asked her, but is it to divert attention from this 110, the debate on the 110 ministerial appointments? What? Who is doing that? Give us some timelines. Tell us what you are going to do, at what point, at what time.
Well, free SHS is starting in September.
It's starting in September. We still don't know where the monies are coming from.
Well, I mean, let's wait for September.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, they've said, but it was mentioned in the budget. The budget, the finance minister has sent the proposal to Parliament for amendment of the laws that will see all those things. So, perhaps.
Let's wait till September. I wouldn't want to wait till September just like that.
When is
I would wish that we get some information.
Around what time?
Well, before September, say by the time the children write their BECU, which is in June, between May and June. I love this free SHS. I'm one person who gave thumbs up for this free SHS because it was started. And if it had been continued, a lot of young girls like myself, we wouldn't have had to find ourselves at Mokola, selling pure water, selling ice kenke, selling bayere, abae, to struggle through our education because we are academically inclined. And there are a lot of girls out there. There are a lot of young men out there. One of my mates was selling fresh just so he could continue. But all I'm saying is that we shouldn't just swallow it. How is it going to be financed?
You want timelines?
We should be giving some timelines and some specific information as to
let's wrap up on the Mawako branch manager who's been granted bail, 20,000 Ghana cedis with 2 sureties. Yesterday, he admitted, in fact, that it wasn't a splash of pepper, but now the lady's face was the Mawako restaurant in Jowolo, Ablegpe actually, that where a lady worker whose face had to be immersed in hot pepper. The lady actually said that she's originally hired to work in the rice department, but on that fateful day she was asked to work in the chicken department. So she was blending pepper to use, and whatever happened. Her face was dipped into hot pepper paste.
And the manager?
Yes, and it's been running for some time now.
By the supervisor?
Exactly, supervisor of the place. He's been granted bail. The matter is in court, but for you women out there, does it stop there for you?
It mustn't. It shouldn't. It can't.
Absolutely not. It cannot stop there. It's, for me, there's a problem about this whole thing on 2 fronts. The first one is the fact that as a foreigner yourself, being in this country, how dare you treat a Ghanaian
he says he's Ghanaian. He says he's Ghanaian now.
Well, he may have converted to be, if you do these kinds of things in the UK and you are jailed, afterwards they deport you and remind you that you just naturalized and that you are whatever it is, Ghanaian, Nigerian, whatever. So we have to take these things seriously. If you are Ghanaian and we've welcomed you into our country and allowed you to become Ghanaian, is this the way to treat fellow Ghanaians, or are you Ghanaian because it's convenient for you to be Ghanaian business-wise? What is the reason? And also, this cannot be the end of this matter at all. I mean, this is an abuse of somebody's human rights. How can you dip somebody's face in pepper? They could have lost their eye.
Yes.
They could have lost their eye. And then what? How can you compensate somebody for that partial or total blindness? No, this gentleman has to be dealt with the full force of the law. And if Ghanaians, if he does not do what he's supposed to do, and Mawako itself as an organization have to compensate the lady and make sure that it doesn't provide the kind of environment which will allow people to abuse our Ghanaian workers there.
Right.
Otherwise, they should all go, because I think Ghanaians have to be treated with respect.
Right.
In our own, they have to respect our culture, our laws, and our people.
This
It's
has been
ridiculous.
happening.
It's totally
It's been
ridiculous.
happening. It's not the first time. The
Can
girl
they
is
do
not the
that
first.
in Lebanon or wherever
The
it
girl
is they
is not
come
the
from?
first. And I feel
I
strongly.
see.
The
They've been
girl is not-
behaving like that there.
Yes, and that is why I
I
feel
see.
that young lady should be given some form of recognition.
Yes.
She spoke.
She spoke out.
She spoke.
In fact, I
And it should
had
be
a chance to
encouraged.
chase an earlier story at Peter Pan. Eventually, the gentleman who was abused, he said he was not interested in the issue again. It's not the first, actually. I
That's
should
what
say.
happens. You know,
Because they are
20,000 Ghana cedis as
Yes.
with what?
Two sureties.
Two sureties. He's
I mean,
been able to pay.
20,000.
And
Look at what-
and he salutes at the
20,000.
camera, and you know he has a bit
So
of swag.
pompous.
20,000.
They feel so
They
good.
make that in an hour. 20,000.
Yes.
I mean,
And
what
they'll
is that?
continue to abuse our young
Well,
ladies.
he's in a
We leave
magistrate court, so
we leave
perhaps
it
they
to
are
the,
working
yeah, we
within
leave
their
it to the
threshold.
judges to decide. But this
That
is a
woman has to
case-
be fully supported.
Yes.
And and the message must be out there that if you're an employer, it does not give you the right to abuse
That's it.
human beings in this
And
country.
this is when we
whether
need
they
to
are
let-
Ghanaians or
Yeah.
foreigners. It is
We
wrong.
need to let people know their rights and responsibilities, so
Yes.
that they know when their rights are being infringed upon.
Right.
So that
Interesting.
if the
Let's-
manager is giving you a part
You
on your
speak
back
up.
which is not
You speak
comfortable
up.
for you, you tell him,
And
gentlemen,
well done to
stop
the
it.
woman.
Let's check if we have some WhatsApp messages on the screen, perhaps. Yes, we have a few WhatsApp messages that perhaps have come. Oh, well, we haven't uploaded them yet. Let's check Twitter. Maybe we have a few tweets to share with you. And says, well, low-key charity works. Okay, and because I don't always like. Okay, so I don't. Okay, great idea, but I hope all the regional hospitals will be equipped and upgraded. They're discussing totally different issues. Perhaps they're talking in connection with the Yendi issue. And if you have, oh man, well, the interdicted police officer, someone says if you have these things, please, interesting. Well, let's take the WhatsApp messages. Oh boy, well, they are not up yet. Let's go to Kwachi Afre. Morning.
Good morning.
And thank you to lawyer Vicky Bright. Thank you very much for coming, and
Thank
to
you
you, Rose,
very
as
much,
well.
sure.
Grateful. Have a great Friday. It's Friday. Do you have plans yet? Some pounding of fufu and some cooking.
I'm traveling right back to Elmina, where I just arrived from.
Okay, peace. Thank you very much. Travel safe
My pleasure.
and be
Thank
good. We'll
you.
visit shortly. Come and chop back at 2 there.